Unidrakrit pankaja karnikaraye Yogeshwara stapita pada pallavam Shri Lakshanam Kaustuba Ratnakandaram Amlana Lakshmiyavana Malayachitam. Isn't it beautiful? Such a wonderful verse, so nice. Unidra Krit Pankaja Karnikalaye Yogeshwara Stapita Pada Pallavam Shri Lakshanam Kaustuba Ratnakandaram Amlana Lakshmiyavana Malayachitam. Devotees, Yogeshwara Pita Pada Pallavam Shri Lakshanam Kaustuba Ratnakandaram Amlana Lakshmiyavana
Yogeshwara Stapita Pada Pallavam Yogeshwara Stapita Pada Pallavam Shri Lakshanam Kaustubam Ratnakandaram Shri Lakshanam Kaustubam Ratnakandaram Amlani Lakshmiyavana Malayachitam Amlana Lakshmiyavana Malayachitam.
Matajis. Unidra Hrit Pankaja Karnikalaye Yogeshwara Stapita Pada Pallavam Shri Lakshanam Kaustuba Ratnakandaram Amlana Lakshmiyavana Malayachitam. Pankaja Karnikalaye
Yogeshwara Stapita Pada Pallavam Shri Lakshanam Kaustubha Ratnakandaram Shri Lakshanam Kaustubha Ratnakandaram Amlana Lakshmiyavana Malayachitam Amlana Lakshmiyavana Malayachitam.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna go. Unidra, blooming, Hrit, heart, Pankaja, lotus flower, Karnikalaye, on the surface of the world, Yoga Ishvara, the great mystic, Astapita, placed, Pada Pallavam, lotus feet, Shri, the goddess of fortune, or a beautiful calf, Lakshanam, marked in that way, Kauštubha, the Kauštubha jewel, Ratna, other jewels, Kandaram, on the shoulder, Amlana, quite fresh, Lakshmiya, beauty, Vanamalaya, by a flower garland, Achitam, spread over. Translation: his lotus feet are placed over the whirl of the lotus lotus-like hearts of great mystics. On his chest is the Kaustubha jewel, engraved with a beautiful calf, and there are other jewels on his shoulders. His complete torso is garlanded with fresh flowers. Please repeat after me. His lotus feet, here it is, are placed over the whorls of the lotus-like hearts of great mystics. On his chest is the Kaustubha jewel, engraved with a beautiful calf. And there are other jewels on his shoulders. His complete torso is garlanded with fresh flowers. Thank you. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The ornaments, flowers, clothing, and all other decorations on the transcendental body of the Personality of Godhead are identical with the body of the Lord. None of them are made of material ingredients, otherwise there would be no chance of their decorating the body of the Lord. As such, in the Paravyoma, spiritual varieties are also distinguished from the material variegatedness. Unidrakrit pankaja karnikaloye yogeshvara stapita pada pallavam Sri Lakshanam Kaustuba Ratna Kandaram Amlana Lakshmiya Vanamala Yachitam. His lotus feet are placed over the whorls of the lotus-like hearts of great mystics. On his chest is the Kaustubha jewel, engraved with a beautiful calf, and there are other jewels on his shoulders. His complete torso is garlanded with fresh flowers. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Bande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Ananda Lila Maya Vigrahaya Hema Badivyachavi Sundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasa Pradaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. We have arrived at a very important place in the description of Srimad Bhagavatam, in this journey, the soul's journey. And what I'm going to do now is just not really compare, but draw some sort of comparisons between Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam. We know that Bhagavad Gita is also explaining gradual progress on our path, and it culminates in a very important statement that we should surrender, and then that's where Srimad Bhagavatam picks up and carries us on this journey. Still, there are similarities, especially if we follow these first verses of the second canto. We have this sort of existential crisis. Arjuna is in existential crisis. Parikshit is in existential crisis. Yes, we have surrendered to the Guru in one way or another. Then we have Guru's explanation or Guru's tattva or instructions, etc. So this is basically that comparison. This is what I want to cover now. So for Arjuna, because he was actually paralyzed, it's a very, very difficult situation, you know. You are the biggest warrior of your time. There is no bigger warrior than you. Okay, we can say Bhishma was better, but that's it. That's where it stops. But for Arjuna, because he actually, it says here, it's a very interesting thing. He offers sophisticated moral and religious arguments. So he was using everything in the book. He was using moral, dharmic, niti. He used niti to convince Krishna that why he shouldn't fight. So it's a serious crisis for an individual. It's when you really face like a turning point in your life, when you are unable to act. It's not just, should I do it or should I not do it? I don't know. Maybe I can do it. It's not like that. It's like a proper mental block, like. So the biggest warrior of the time actually drops his weapon out of weakness. So that's a serious crisis. Would you not agree? It's like a proper problem in a life. No? Yes. He identifies his body as a self. He thinks his relatives as part of his extension. So these are kind of Arjuna's viewpoints. There are technically five reasons in Arjuna's explanation why he shouldn't fight. So it's not just one reason, I'm tired, I shouldn't go to the Mangala. It's only one reason, I will have time later to chant. Okay, that's a good reason, but Arjuna had 5 reasons. Do you remember them? So there is compassion for the family and the relatives. It's in the first chapter 130 and second chapter 213. Desire for enjoyment. So it's me. First, okay, I don't want to kill them, they are my relatives, but if I kill them, how will I enjoy? Me, immediately, me. So that is 131 and 231, 237. These were in which verses this is represented. Fear of sinful reactions, so that's extended sense gratification. Destruction of family and tradition, that is moral. Indecision, mental platform. So many things. Eventually he surrenders. Good news for us. He is showing us the example. And then Krishna starts explaining. So in a twist of event, so in our case now, Shukadev and Parikshit. So Parikshit also faces a very, very serious existential crisis. I don't think any one of us can imagine how serious this is. You are going to die in 7 days. Of course, we know we're going to die. We are intelligent enough. Even if we are not devotees, we kind of gathered that much just by being in this environment we are, this material world. So we witnessed the passing of time, we witnessed death. Who saw out of you, who saw a dead body, human dead body? 3 of you. So that can be very sobering, that can be very, it can make you think about, about life in a different perspective. I remember, Gora Shakti, you remember somehow? Tetudat Gora Shakti and Braja from Agar, Page. So they were in India, in Mayapur, and they were just on the banks of the Ganges, chanting, talking about life, wonderful, holy place, and you reflect on serious things as it is done in these situations. So, and the Ganges was flowing peacefully, in Mayapur, Ganges is calm, it calms down. There is a story for that, I'll tell you one time. And then things were floating on the Ganges as normally do, a log, just reefs or things like that. And there was something coming, and they were like talking, the mundanity of the world and the passing of the time, and something was floating. And then things float, and the rivulets go, things turn, this and that, and they were like looking, what's that? And just in front of them, the thing turned around, and it was like a human carcass floating there. Okay. So it's a serious crisis for Parikshit. He will die. He had been cursed for one reason or another. We're not going to get into it, but there is a serious consideration what to do. So he was a devotee. He is a devotee of Krishna, but still he represents something here. He is a king. He is the emperor, not just a king. He is the emperor. So there is no things he does not have. There is no thing he cannot achieve. And even if he would have wanted, he could actually just tell Krishna, do something, I don't want to die. You probably know that there are various descriptions of this pastime or any pastime of Krishna, because Krishna performs these pastimes time after time after time, again and again and again. So whenever there is Dvapara Yuga entering Kali Yuga, Krishna comes and this pastime is performed. Parikshit Maharaj is cursed, and then something happens. But every time this pastime is enacted differently, just to spice it up a little bit. Basically it is the same, but in detail it might vary. That's why in the Bhagavatam we can read, for instance, that there are five. In Bhagavatam there is, I think, 3 Varaha pastimes mentioned, but there are 5 in the Vedas. We can read about 5 pastimes of Lord Varaha. So similarly, this pastime of Parikshit Maharaj is explained differently in the Mahabharata. Did you know that? In the Mahabharata it is explained that when Parikshit was cursed, he didn't want to die, so he actually tried to do everything in his power to avoid this death, and to such extent that he actually built a huge tower without any... there was one entrance, he went up and they sealed the entrance, so nothing can enter that tower, and he was up on that tower alone, waiting out his time. And then that way he was hoping that that will pass, Takshaka won't be able to come up there in any way. So everything was sealed. Food was delivered by a basket on a rope. And so that's one pastime, for Parikshit. In our case here, it's a different pastime. Same pastime, different details. Are you not curious how Parikshit died in the previous story? How did he die? Burned? Every time he's burned by Takshaka, but how did Takshaka get in? No. So, because the only way in, and it was guarded on every level and everything, so Takshaka couldn't just come there, he would be attacked or killed. So he actually transformed his form into a little worm. Kukot. That's the Hungarian. Kukot. Say it. The kukot. Kukot. So, and he went into the fruit basket. Hid there. And then they took the fruit up, and Parikshit was there waiting for the day. And then he was eating. And the day arrived, the 7th day arrived, and Parikshit was a devotee, so he respected, Krishna's will, and also he was a Raj Rishi, so he understood the power of the Brahmanas, so he said, okay. And then in the basket there was this kukot, this worm, and he said, okay, just to make this Brahmana's word come true, I let this worm, this takshaka, bite me. So he placed it next to his neck, just to, out of that kind of generosity. He didn't know it's takshaka. He just said, okay, let the word of the Brahmin come true. So he just placed the kukots here, and then the kukots changed into takshaka and bit him, and he died. So interesting, no?
I have 2 more versions.
2 more versions. Okay, next week Vishalananda Prabhu will give class, and we will gladly and eagerly hear 2 more explanations of this wonderful pastime. Okay, so Parikshit Maharaj decides to, well, it's not abdicate, but just to give up his throne, go to the Ganges. And then this was a big news. The emperor gives up his, position and goes to the Ganges to die. So many sages, many devotees, many brahmarshis and yogis and brahmanandis and all sorts of various people arrived there. And then he inquired about the duty, like Arjuna, what should I do? And then this is actually where Parikshit comes, and the Parikshit glorifies, Shukadev comes, he glorifies Parikshit, that this is the right question at the time of death. The time of death is a very, very difficult time for a soul. It's a confusing time. And once Birbal and Akbar was talking to Birbal about again, they were talking about life and the meaning of life and deeper, connections. And Akbar asked, what is the most, difficult thing to give up in this world when you die? What are you most attracted to? What is that thing which binds everyone to this world so that it's so hard to give up? And then Birbal, being very clever and wise, he said, it's lust, simple, it's just lust. No, it can't be. Maybe it's like, I don't know, attachment to your relatives, or maybe you achieved something in your life like prestige, maybe that. No, it's lust. It's just lust. I'm not sure. Well, then Birbal said, well, let me prove it to you. Okay. And later that night, Birbal woke up the emperor and said, Your Highness, come quickly. Now is the time for me to prove you what is the biggest attachment in this world. And then Akbar was, he woke up, but because they had a very good relationship, there wasn't issue about it. And then Birbal said, please also bring your daughter. The daughter was a world-famous beauty. She was one of the most beautiful women at that time. And then they all went out to the village, and they approached a house. And they knocked in, and then Birbal said, I'll go first, and then you enter as the emperor of our realm as a big king, and then just be careful to see how will this dying man, it's a dying man inside, he only has few minutes, so be careful, look at his eyes when you enter. So he went in and he said, "Oh poor man, your prayers have been heard. The emperor has come at the last dying moments of your life to grant you his darshan as a gratitude for your service throughout your life. The Emperor Akbar is coming now." And the dying man was like, okay, he acknowledged. And then Akbar came in his regal dress with his crown, behind him his daughter, and the dying man was looking at the daughter and passed. And then Birbal looked at the king, and the king looked at Birbal. I entered, I am the king, and he was looking at my beautiful daughter. What is happening? So even at that moment of death, if we are not cleaned of these things, we will be affected by them. Okay, so in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tries to guide Arjuna, and the first thing actually he explains that we need to understand the difference between the body and the spirit. So we need to transcend this physical plane. We need to differentiate. So immediately, intelligence, turn on your intelligence. So often I'm told this, turn on your intelligence. When you are in the association of pure devotees, and if you are not sharp, if you are on mental plane, you will hear this. Turn on your intelligence. Snap might not be there, but turn on your intelligence. You have to always be sharp, always think proactively and understand things. Sometimes, even when, I'm actually referring to Bhaktipada Goswami Maharaj, sometimes he just mentions something in a half sentence, and you need to understand what it means, and you need to act upon it. You need to actually conclude the whole sentence, or you need to read between the lines. Isn't that like that with Shivara Maharaj as well, in his environment? It is. So, Krishna asked Arjuna to turn on his intelligence. You are not this body, you are spirit soul, these kings and your relatives and everyone with you and me. There was no time when we did not exist, and there will be no time when we won't continue existing, etc. So these teachings are there in the Bhagavad Gita. Very detailed explanation. The only difference between the Bhagavad Gita and the Bhagavatam in this regard is that Bhagavad Gita, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna takes time to explain chapters. The whole second chapter, beginning of third chapter, is actually explaining this principle. In the Bhagavatam, Shukadev Goswami, 2, 3, 5 verses, bas, he goes. So he just summarizes this principle. One, because in Bhagavatam we already are on a different level. Two, Parikshit was also, a devotee. He didn't need to be spoon-fed the information of the transcendence. He already knew things. He just needed to be reminded. In second chapter of the Bhagavatam, we start again. Parikshit, Shukadev Goswami tells the mundanity of this material world, the uselessness of owning, He says this interesting phrase. We are not used to this, but it's in this life, in this, in material world, we don't call these names. microphone, table, stand, cup, floor. These are the names, and we associate with them. We have these attachments. We develop deep emotional attachments toward these names, which are just, like shackles on our body. Voluntary simplicity is what Shukadeva Goswami suggests. Voluntary simplicity. Don't we just have enough place to lay down on a little grass? Don't we have our arm just to put it behind or underneath our head? So it's simple. Voluntary simplicity. Today's life of today's brahmacharis is very simple here in the temple. You have a bed, you have cupboards, you have everything, you have various, what you call shower cubicles, so many things you have. And then when we started, it wasn't like that. When our spiritual master started, it was definitely not like that. So voluntary simplicity today won't be the same as it was for us, but still you have to develop a mentality of simplicity. We had one bathroom with a tab, like not a shower cubicle, but a bath tab. And then we had 10 seconds. So one devotee was washing teeth, the other one was on the toilet, which was curtained away. The third one was waiting in the queue. The fourth one was in the shower. And then cold water, 10 seconds. Water, soap, water, out, next. This is what we did. Voluntary simplicity. And we were very happy. We were excited about it. This point of working in this world for something you will lose, useless labor, is explained by Shukadeva Goswami. Detachment from these artificial desires, because they are, why they're artificial? We would argue that, but I know that it's here, I want it, I need it. Why is it then artificial? And then again, because everything is mundane, and the mundane thing, although real, is not permanent, it's temporary. That's why it actually becomes just useless, artificial. You grab hold of something, and after some time it just flows out of your hand, you lose it. So why are you so attached to that thing? It's like yeah, exactly, it's like building your world out of ice. I need this chair, and then you carve it, and it's a beautiful ice chair. I need this bed, and you have a beautiful ice bed, and you need this, and you need that, and your wife, and you carve it perfectly of ice. Just to see, slowly but surely, everything is melting away around you. And this confuses the soul, because the soul is eternal, and everything around him is just going away, dripping away. No? It's very difficult to understand. How fortunate we are that we have been given this transcendental knowledge. It's not like, we have been given some mystic power to overcome this pain. It's not like we have been given something like, this ring you will wear now will make you happy, or this flower garland will make you understand. We always think something will make me happy. No, only thing we have been given is the transcendental knowledge. We have been given one book. We have been given one book of Srila Prabhupada, and we are now happy because we understand the situation, what's going on. Isn't that wonderful? No? We can one day, maybe not now, our time is already up, and I'm only halfway through. we can talk one day about how did you get the book, because every devotee has a nice story how he received Srila Prabhupada's mercy. Some differently, some like that, but in one way or another we got the knowledge. That makes sense? Then Krishna also explains to Arjuna his all-pervading presence in Virat Rup, that is actually the beginning of understanding the existence of a higher potency, of a higher principle of existence. And that is again explained by Shukadeva Goswami, the Brahman aspect of the Supreme Lord, how he is present everywhere. This existence we are now in is made out of Brahman. Everything we interact with is Brahman. But how do we see that this cup of water or this cushion I'm sitting on is God? Then we need to understand that this form also has a function. And that function is the principle of Brahman. So this is a soft cushion. So it has this form of softness, of comfort. This holster has the function of holding back, holding me firmly so I can kneel against it. The water has this quenching function, it refreshing. Raso ham apsu kaunteya. I am the taste of water, in the water. So if we start looking the form in the function, then we will start seeing the presence of God in everything. So it's explained in the Gita and in the Bhagavatam. So Virat Rupa, and then Shukadeva explained in detail how Virat Rupa is represented in the universe, legs, this, that, and the other. Patala are his souls, Patala, lowest planets, hellish planets. So we sometimes argue that if God is all good, how can then be evil in the world? Explain it to me. Ha ha, I gotcha. But Bhagavatam explains that as well. It says that the very bad is also there, just at the soul, at the very bottom of God. And also it says that his back is the darkness, or the bad things are his back, and his front is the good things. So there is no contradiction. And once you understand this, that whatever comes from the Supreme is ultimately good, there is no, contradiction in this regards. Brahmaloka, Rasatala heels, Brahmaloka head, etc. Then this type of understanding, that we start seeing Virat Rup and start seeing the existence in connection to a higher principle, this is what Shukadeva Goswami is actually driving through, is bringing the individual up to the guna of sattva. In that guna, in that consciousness, will you be able to actually go further. In tamas and rajas, you won't see. It's very, very confusing. But if you start connecting the dots, how I see God in this, how is God present here in the universe, upper planets, lower planets, what part is, etc., then you are thinking in the sattva gun. And then from there you can go further. Then we arrive at this current verses 9 and 10, Paramatma. This is the God who is present in every living entity's heart. So this is very, very sweet. And then, as today's verse demonstrated, it's such a nice, beautifully crafted verse. It flows so beautifully, and it's melodic, and the words we recognized for few words, Pankaja and Kaushtuba and Pallavam, you know, these things. So it's so beautiful, because now we are talking about a person. A person. This microphone stand is a representation, a physical manifestation of the Supreme in a form of a microphone stand whose function is to hold a microphone, a camera, camera stand holds up the camera. So this so far is just Brahman concept. How does then Paramatma come into the picture? Paramatma comes into the picture by understanding that due to my karma, this witness in my heart knows, am I allowed to own Brahman in this form or not? If I'm allowed, due to my karma, past karma, then this is mine. This is now given to me as my right to use it. Otherwise, it's not mine. So this principle of can I use it, is it allowed to me, is Paramatma. Because only he knows. I don't know. I only know a few years back. I don't even remember, my youth anymore, let alone previous lives. You understand this concept? But because God, Krishna explained this, and Arjuna specifically asked this question, how is it possible that, you taught this knowledge to Vivaswan, but he is so many millions years before and you are now here? And Krishna says, because I'm eternal and I am in everyone's heart and I remember. You don't remember, but I do. Good news. So that's Paramatma. So immediately you can establish a nice personal connection with him. And this not just applies to you in your understanding, but you now see others in this light as well. Oh, he has such a beautiful jumper. This is such a beautiful jumper. He did something very nice in the past and now he deserves that jumper and Krishna gave it to him. So I'm so happy about that. I'm not going to think, oh, I want that jumper. Why don't I have that jumper? Maybe I'll just secretly damage that jumper so he doesn't have it. No, I will appreciate that. I will see God in that. Make sense? So we arrived at today's verse. Basically, Shukadev Goswami is now talking about Super Soul. Beautiful, beautiful. Again, beautiful verse. Let me read it again. Such a beautiful verse. Because so far, all the verses were like, tongue twisters. You couldn't read them, let alone understand them. And suddenly we have Unidra Hrit Pankaja Karnikalaye Yogeshwara Stapita Pada Pallavam Sri Lakshanam Kaushtubaratna Kandaram Amlana Lakshnyavanamalaya. Beautiful. No? His lotus feet are placed over the whorls of the lotus-like hearts of great mystics. On his chest is the Kaushtuba jewel, engraved with a beautiful calf, and there are other jewels on his shoulders. His complete torso is garlanded with fresh flowers. Excellent. In the verse purport, Srila Prabhupada explains a few points. One of them is that since the Supreme Lord is absolute, transcendental, everything on his body is also supreme and transcendental. You don't have to worry that this garland will actually dry out. And then devotees will run into your heart and just change his garland every 2 days or every day. And then some devotees will be there polishing his jewels. And I was just contemplating this last night. that's how I fell asleep, thinking, yes, how this remains always fresh. How is that even possible? Because he is transcendental, and everything is transcendental, so it's eternal. So once someone plucked those flowers, once, meaning we don't know when, but I guess once, and placed it on his, on his neck, and those flowers are ever since there, beautiful, fresh, fragrant, attractive, and then all that. If you just consider, his dhoti will never get wrinkled, the color will never fade. Oh, but I was in Cyprus this summer with Goswami Maharaj, and we were on the sun, so maybe the dhoti's color get, faded. No, his dhoti will always be that bright, golden yellow, etc. So if you think like this, it's a good meditation, no? I like it. So to conclude, there is an existential crisis. So if you meet someone on the street, or when you preach to someone, even to a devotee, you approach it this way. This is a nice journey of the soul, as the title demonstrated. There is an existential crisis, whatever that is. Whatever that is. A devotee will come to you and he say, oh, please help. I'm confused about my duty. I want to marry. Oh, help me. I'm confused with my duty. The Guru told me to do this, but I can't. Existential crisis. Then we have the first answer. You have to get detached from that reality. Reality is in parenthesis. Oh, I remember the very difficult word. So, detachment. You need to detach yourself from that so-called reality. You need to use your intelligence, use Shastra, use Guru, use the Sadhu, what they say. Because at the moment we are completely imbued in our mental state. And to come out of it, you need to detach yourself. So the first answer is detachment. Then you can start giving knowledge. It says here macrocosm. That means the bigger surrounding, the bigger reality. What is the reality happening around you? You are not the only one. Everyone has this problem. Don't worry too much. And then you can bring examples of other devotees or other people's problems. We always bring examples from here. Prahlad Maharaj. There is no other living entity in this universe or in the other who went through more difficult problems than Prahlad Maharaj. Everything you think you have a problem, he already had it. Even worse. His family relations, his school bullied him, his teachers were, bullying him, abusing him. Cooked in a hot ghee. That's just something, Or just, throw him down the rock. So they threw him off the cliff, Problem solved. You have a problem, you have a son who is always kind of annoying you, throw him off the rock. So we will never meet that problem in our life. So there are examples, all right? And you can always preach about how God is everywhere, He sees your problem, He is there to help you. And then we come to the microcosm, the Paramatma. And then you explain the karma, you explain that things are happening with reason, you are now suffering with reason, etc., etc. You see this progress. So this is a very scientific way of understanding our situation. And once we graduate this understanding, we can then help others because we see how to. Okay. Our time is way over. Sorry. Thank you. There won't be time for questions, Vishal. Maybe next time. Next week when you will tell us all the stories of Parikshit Maharaj. Good. I thank you for your attention. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Jai Nitai Go Premanande.